Welcome to Take the Weight Out of Weight Loss with your host, Natasha D'Souza. Here we'll be discussing the challenges and strategies for managing emotional eating and achieving sustainable weight loss. Join us as we explore the science and psychology behind emotional eating and weight loss while learning how to make lasting changes in your life. Hi everyone, and welcome back again to another episode of Take the Weight Out of Weight Loss. Today I have with me a very, very special guest. I promised you guys last time that I really wanted to get more into mental health, men that struggled with obesity, how they handle binge eating, emotional eating, and I'm delivering. I have with me a very, very special guest, formerly known as Papafituae, I would say, but I guess his regular name is Aimon. Am I saying it right?
100%.
I know you as Papafit, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna go with.
Let's go with Papa then, yeah.
Okay, amazing. And so we're gonna get to know a lot more about his story today, and let's get right into it. Hello and welcome.
Good morning, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I know this has been a long time coming, so thank you for one, being very patient with me, and two, being here today. How have you been?
Been awesome, yeah. Exhausted though.
Yeah, new baby. That'll do to you. How's is it? Are you getting back into the routine and swing of things for yourself?
Sort of, yeah, but I'm earning the name Papa for sure. Yeah.
I can imagine. So first thing, I found you, I think it was like 2 or 3 years back on TikTok, very similar spaces, talking about food, health, weight loss. And I was just so intrigued I loved first I told myself, God, he's in Dubai. So all his tips and tricks are from Dubai, like all the high protein stuff. So that was what intrigued me the most. But let us take it even further back, how did this inspiration of you talking about food come along? Tell us about your weight loss struggles, and let's take it as far back as we can.
Sure. So at one point I was around 150 kilograms, I'd say. So I was a big boy. I was highly functioning though. I used to play American football growing up. I was still very active. So it didn't bother me per se for a long time. I was sort of getting away with it. How did I get to that point though? I wasn't born that heavy. I was kind of like a long stringy kid growing up, but I was all over the place. I kind of had like a refugee upbringing. So my father's Arab, my mother's British. So we left the UK, we went to Saudi, we went to Egypt, back to England, and then finally we settled in the US. So moved around quite a bit. So I was always the weird kid with a weird accent, moving schools constantly. So like you kind of stand out. But there's something very unique about me too. So I used to have a birthmark on my right cheek, right over here. So I don't know if you can see the scar anymore, but so that was something that I had to kind of deal with quite a bit. I got bullied a lot, particularly in the UK, actually. That was some of the worst experience. So they used to call me like, I don't know if we're allowed to swear, but
Go for it.
I was like a 6-year-old anyway, so they already used that kind of language. But yeah, they call me shitface. And because it was this big old birthmark right there on my face.
Oh my God.
So that was a big part of, I think, where my insecurity came, especially about my looks. And it was pretty bad. Like they would like do competitions, try and knock it off my face. So they'd be like hitting you in the same spot over and over and over again. It was terrible. So I guess it was just normal back then. Like my grandmother, she used to like knit for a living. So she'd keep like sewing my jumpers or sweaters back together because they'd come ripped every day. Yeah, it was terrible. So when we moved to America, it was a little bit better. It was more like verbal bullying versus like getting your butt kicked. I think having a lot more minorities around too. Like I'm kind of like the ethnically ambiguous though, because I've got like the weird name, but kind of the pale skin and the American accent. So nobody can quite place me, but it was a little bit easier in the US, but I think over time I just got used to being very self-conscious about my appearance. And then it probably led to some of the, binge eating. And then I think getting bigger too, in a way, like the physical side wasn't as bad anymore because they'll make fun of you, but they won't push you anymore.
Yeah.
So
it's like a protection, your shield of armor.
I agree, yeah. And then eventually I leveraged that, in American football, they love it. They're like, yeah, just get bigger. You don't have to be terribly athletic for American football. It's not like rugby where you actually have to be able to like run properly. No, they just want like a block.
Yeah.
In the front. So you pick up those bad habits and you carry them through adulthood and you never really address the psychological side. So it just continued. And I was putting up with it. I had a very kind of alpha male approach to things too. So I was like, yeah, whatever. High blood pressure. I might die young. Who cares? But it wasn't until a very significant event that I finally like made a change for good. Because I made a few mini transformations here or there. In university, my parents left and it was a bit tough. So I lost weight probably unhealthily, but I did a couple of mini transformations along the way. I always would gain it back though. So if something went wrong in life, or any like major transition in my life, so when I moved to UAE, I started gaining a lot of weight again on my own, once again, without my family, things like that. But when I got married, and I don't know how my wife agreed to marry me at 150 kilograms, but
It's true love.
yeah, right. She, by the way, she was 48 kilograms at the time. I was 3 of her. I think like from the knee down, like that was her weight. That was the, sort of as a comparison. But so actually, it was really early in our marriage that I realized that we had major fertility issues, and by we I mean me. So normally it's the women they kind of blame for these things, but I think they're realizing now a lot more, especially with lifestyle issues, that men are struggling too. How did I find out? It was like pure coincidence. I'm from a family of 6. I'm the tallest in my family. I have facial hair. I've got the deepest voice. There was really no like physical reason for me to think that I would have any issues having kids. And we were only married about a year. So it wasn't even like we were planning to take a couple of years, take it easy. But I was working with a friend and he was struggling. So he was getting tested and going through all this. They started IVFs. And I was like, maybe I should just check myself, just on a whim. And sure enough, like I was even worse than him. I had like pretty much a 0 count when it came to fertility. So because I wasn't expecting it, the way it was delivered to me, like what do they call them? The urologist, like had the worst bedside manner. I think he just assumed I knew something was wrong because most guys don't test themselves randomly. And he's like, yeah, you're probably never going to have kids naturally. And I was like, excuse me? Like it just, bam, hit me. And I've been raised my whole life, like to be a father. Like I'm the oldest son. So like I always had that role. My mom passed when we were young. So we used to change diapers for the baby who was around. And like, so we played like that kind of father figure role. So I was ready for it, man. I wanted like 100 kids. And so that hit me hard. So a big reason of it, there were a few issues, but I think the weight kept coming up as one of the main problems. So that was my point of no return then. I could die young, I could look ugly, I can get made fun of, clothes don't fit, who cares? Knees hurt, doesn't matter. The minute they said you can't be a dad, I was like, uh-oh. And that was my click point. So it's a shame it had to take that extreme, but
sometimes that's what you need. Tony Robbins says we need that breaking point, that breaking point to really switch our lives. So I mean, got you great results. So
True.
It's sad that it had to be that, that far, but.
Yeah, but a very happy ending. So I was able to lose weight. It wasn't healthy at all at the beginning. I didn't really know what I was doing.
What did that look like in the beginning?
So in the beginning, it was like extreme low carb diets because I think especially for guys, sometimes it's easy for us. You don't have to worry about, so portion control is still an issue for me. So you just eat as much chicken meat as you want. And then I just have like grilled vegetables or salad. That's it. No dressings. No, it was really boring. Now, my wife had to support me a lot too. And I think this was a game changer because I have cousins and friends where like they struggle with the family aspect. But my wife, I think she was with me. She could tell that I was reaching breaking point. And she did something that in the Arab culture is like unheard of. But she really helped me out where she literally went to her parents and said, he's not going to come over anymore for family dinners and stuff. Like she kind of protected me because she knew that, there's so much pressure and it's rude actually. You can't like say, no, I don't want to eat something or... It's similar in a lot of Eastern cultures, I think. But she did that, and she took so much crap from her parents, and we were still fairly newlyweds. Imagine, she's like, yeah, no, he's not going to come over. He's not going to visit. But she gave me that space to let me do my thing.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, was just as important as some of the other actions I did. So I had like 3-4 months. I lost a crazy amount of weight really quick. I wasn't starving myself per se, but I was not enjoying food. I was in like robot mode. I had a very specific goal. So 30 kilograms came off. And then by that point, because I just happened, I'm very lucky where I like sports and I like to be active, it became easier. So then I started doing things like training for a half marathon, and then the weight started coming off a little easier, and I wasn't as crazy with my diet. So I slowly started reintroducing things. I started learning about like the fasting was great because I'm a practicing Muslim. So it was already kind of in our culture and religion. And then intermittent fasting, I found, okay, it's a good way where I can still have my nice big portions, eat late at night, but not go overboard. So it's a balance, And then calorie counting came along, and that was a really good eye opener. Like I learned so much about nutrition, and I was like, how the hell didn't they teach me this when I was a kid? Why do we not know the basics?
Yeah.
And it's not about like labeling foods or removing foods, but it's just having an understanding with like food is energy, and so like a car needs fuel to run, but if you have a full tank, you don't keep filling it. You don't let it spill out all over I mean, that's ridiculous. And that's what we do with our body. So even by counting calories, like you have an idea of, okay, avocados are amazing for you. Raw nuts are great for you, but not a huge bowl of raw nuts. That's the equivalent of filling fuel all over the floor instead of in your car. So I learned a lot about that. Now, some people it can trigger, I know, poor habits and poor relationship with food. For me, it was great. I'm a numbers guy. I loved it. I was like, oh, sweet. So you start figuring out hacks and swaps. And so for years, I just continued losing weight. I think my body composition was improving a bit too. I was slowly starting to put on a bit more muscle because at the beginning, I kind of turned almost into skinny fat. And then I always liked lifting weights, but I was never consistent. I have a lot of injuries and stuff too, but lifestyle problems too. Like I'm busy, but I'm getting better now. Like you figure out ways. So even just recently, I switched to a 24-hour gym because I have 3 kids now. It is impossible during the day to go work out. Like it's like I'm not going to leave 3 screaming babies with my wife at home. Like that is a D-bag thing to do. Like, So guess what? I'll wake up at 4 a.m., hit a 45-minute, workout session, and actually my strength is going up. It's enough.
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping anyway. Like
yeah, that's all that you need at times. So that's amazing. I mean, just to see everything that you've been through, the ups, the downs. And I want to go back to those times where you said, your parents left and you lost weight and it was not in the most healthy way, because I truly believe our upbringing shapes how we view food over the years. And then I'll get into, day to day and how things are operating now. But what did that look like? What are some of the, let's say the horrific, worst diets that you've done to actually get to those numbers?
It was bad. I've heard a few of your videos and it resonated a lot.
Yeah.
I'm talking like disgusting amounts. So like I go through a drive-through and order like 8 burgers or something, like, and then eat half of them on the way. So then only the other half people would see you eating, but it was still a lot. But I was a big guy, so you can kind of get away with it. Going to an American university, it was, but yeah, a lot of just that binge eating, mostly on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a big cycle like that. A lot of liquid calories too, because I had to feel full all the time.
Yeah.
So whether it was orange juice or whole milk, I still drink a lot of milk. Like I love milk, but you just have to balance it out. So find a way, either try and drink less or not. I'll go to skim milk. I know it's processed and a little less nutritious, but it's helping me. So I'm not gonna get rid of a tool, even if it's less optimal, if it's helping me. So I'd say that was a majority of it. Luckily, I never drank alcohol. Don't even have a big sweet tooth. So there's a lot of things that you'd be like, how the heck did you get that big?
You lucked out there.
Yeah, but it was just pure, lack of portion control and then trying to fill something in with food, just keeping my stomach engorged all day long.
Yeah.
Whether I'd like to, and then passing out. So then it led by hours of inactivity because I wouldn't go out. I wasn't socializing. I felt, I was the outcast guy, like the only one not drinking, the only one not partying, the only one not with a girlfriend, things like that. So like I didn't feel even, I think in university too, I struggled because I felt like the oddball as usual. So I would just eat a bunch, pass out, sleep. So then, when you mix massive caloric intake with completely sedentary, like might as well be in a coma.
Yeah.
It's a horrible recipe.
Yeah, it's the weight piles back on really quick, really, really quick. And then when your parents left, you said you dropped a whole bunch
so
of
I dropped weight a lot. I just stopped eating at that point.
Was it just absolute 500, 600 calories a day? Like what were you consuming?
So I was living in a co-op where, so it's like with the kids that can't afford to live on campus, there was like a little cooperative living place right across the street. So you could still walk to school. You paid really low rent because you had to work to kind of support it. And it was all student run. So there'd be like a president of the co-op, and then there would be like a treasurer, and we would deal with the university directly. So like we had to manage our own finances. If there was like maintenance issues, we would fix it ourselves or find it was interesting in that way. But it was a little bit of an unhealthy environment because most of the people were low income and struggling. So there was a lot of people with like drug problems and coming from all walks of life and mental issues. And so it was a breeding, but you did get like food as part of it. So we had a chef there that would come and he would make like breakfast, lunch, dinner, buffet style.
Okay.
And you can kind of eat whatever you wanted. So it wasn't like the most amazing food, but it was like, actually it wasn't a bad deal. It was, I think we were paying like $250 a month for everything.
That's
like
amazing.
Food. There was a common room, like a pool table. So it wasn't actually that bad. So I would maybe get one of those meals a day and that was it. And then I started working out a bit and playing basketball. I loved basketball a lot. So I was trying to get out more because I was feeling a bit lonely. And it wasn't completely, I'd say, like off of poor habits, but I was way under eating. I was really confused. I didn't know who to hang out with because there wasn't a huge Muslim demographic, or I wasn't hanging out with them for whatever reason. I think I wasn't driving a lot. I wasn't getting out. And then the people who were there, like they were all like, they used to call me narc because I'd be the only one not smoking. So they'd be like, "Why aren't you smoking, man? Are you undercover or something?" So just a lot. I just would hide away, and it was almost similar, but the opposite. So instead of like passed out all day after binging, I would just pass out all day and be like, "I'm hungry. That's my alarm clock. I better go to sleep."
Yeah. Were you dealing with a lot of anxiety, depression then because your parents had left? What was the emotion, if you
It
could
was a
say?
lot. It was tough. So they were gone. 9/11 was my first year at university. So
Oh, wow.
there was a lot of that where, we would get like bottles thrown at us and stuff, like, because it was a very sensitive time and people were freaking out. I'm like an undercover Muslim. Like, you can't tell by looking at me, usually, especially if I shave and my accent. But my sisters used to wear headscarves, for example. So like that, I think, was always like that identity crisis, and not feeling very welcome all the time was really difficult. Because of my mom passing away, we were kind of struggling a bit financially for a really long time. Big shout out to my stepmother, who just like cleaned everything up, fixed us. That's a whole nother story, by the way. That's like a movie story. But so, yeah, it's just dealing with, it's a culmination of all these different things. And then when you're in university, then, you got the pressure. My father changed for a job, but then he ended up having to come back because his parents got sick. And so he was unemployed. And then I was trying to figure out a way to help them financially. And like, it was just so many things happening at once. But I always had love, though. Like, that was the one thing. Like, my parents, were always there. They cared about me. So it's like temporary issues. So it's a lot worse because I had friends, for example. Like, so my mom passed when I was 10. Pretty bad. We were 5 kids, one of them a 2-week-old. So we were orphaned very young age. So on paper, that sounds like, oh, horrible, poor orphan kids. But like, my father remarried very quickly. We had an amazing stepmother who educated us and taught us manners and like cleaned us up. And like, we were so lucky. And then I have friends where their parents divorced, which sounds a lot less. And they were like living way worse times. Like, they were like, every Christmas, they were like, "Oh, I don't know where to go. If I go to my mom, my dad thinks I hate him. If I go to my dad, my mom," like, it was terrible, the situation there.
Yeah.
So I was in a fire, but I was never burned. Like, so some horrible things were happening, but alhamdulillah, like I feel like God was there. So I always had that love, which was important. So it was more just circumstantial things happening, unemployment, political issues, our own like situations that made life a bit tough. But then I survived, I guess, and I always fell forward because I did have a good family and like a religion as the backbone and things like that. So like, it never felt like giving up.
When you're trying to navigate life through that manner, food becomes, especially if alcohol, drugs was not involved, gambling not involved, then food becomes a manner of a coping mechanism. I always tell people, tell me how your upbringing was, show me your environment, and I'll tell you how much you rely on food and why you rely on food. And it's so evident that we all go through these like coping mechanisms in our life, and you did the best that you could, right? You did the best that you could with the resources that you had, and you had love. And when those moments of anxiety and stress came up, food tends to be a companion.
It's interesting you say that, because now that I think, earlier, my biological mother, she gained a lot of weight before she passed away. So I wonder if also we picked up some habits, because that's how she dealt with her situation. She was only 32. She contracted skin cancer. It was in her eye first, so they had to remove her eye. She has 4 kids, and then she's, by the way, this British lady, married to an Arab guy. They were married very young. She was only 16, so it's kind of like ran away from home sort of a thing. So she had I think, a difficult upbringing.
Yeah.
And then, she was very heavy set by the time she died. So I don't know if that was a side effect of medicines she was taking or just her way of coping. But there's 2 things that I always remember about her. Yeah, the weight, and then she was a nail biter. And I don't know if you can close in. Like, that's something I just can't break. Like, she had nothing, though.
Really?
It's horrible,
First of all, I'm so sorry for your loss, and got to go to that when you were so,
ending,
but you're spot on, because we pick it up from our parents. I'm a binge eater. I classify as a binge eater, recovering, whatever situation that might be. But my mom was as well. She hit it really well. She went through periods of losing weight and then gaining weight. And then there was these periods where she would take plates of food to the bedroom, sneak back down and be like, what is she doing? Why is that happening? And then I started noticing myself doing that, making these small plates of food, binge eating on them. And, it's sad, but we pick up these environments. If we're not taught how to emotionally regulate, we'll pick it up from our parents on how they emotionally regulate. And unfortunately, I am not a believer in placing blame. It's not like our parents are given, a manual. Here's how you're going to raise all your kids for them to be the best individual. They're doing the best that they can. So I think in that standpoint, but I also am a strong believer that when you know better, you do better. And you're a living prophecy of that. Like, yes, she did have the weight on. Yes, you potentially may have seen the way you kind of connected with food, but also you were able to navigate life outside of that. And that's where I'm more curious about now. So, you talked about your wife and the environment and her telling your in-laws that you can't come, which I know is big. This is really big. I see it from clients all the time being like, yeah, but I have to go to my in-laws on Sunday and I can't say no and it's going to be so rude. I think that's one of the toughest things. But you said something that really struck a chord for me. You said it wasn't about the enjoyment anymore. It wasn't about I just ate because I had to eat. How did you manage that? How did you manage the fact that food was no longer going to be an enjoyment? Because that's big.
Like I said, for me, it was a bit of a cheat code. Like, I didn't care about anything. The minute you said, I can't be a father, that was it. No other worldly pleasures mattered. Like, 1,000 things went through my mind when I found that news out. Should I leave my wife? Should I let her find a guy that can actually, give her a family? Should I? Like, so much horrible, thoughts and things. So I didn't care. I didn't need to feel like it wouldn't have tasted good anyway at that point. The beginning, it was trauma. It was a very traumatic incident for me. And for men too, like that's literally your manhood. Like you can't have children.
Yeah.
And in the society, especially the generation I was raised in, like that was really important, like to kind of show your manhood and have children and raise a family and do all that. So it did, I think in a sad way, it made it easier for me because I didn't have to constantly battle with slipping back and falling back. And while most people hopefully don't have to hit that level of extreme in their life, but then it makes it a different kind of challenge for them because it really is hard. And I have a friend, it's so interesting. He does a lot of fitness coaching and stuff, and he's been fit most of his life. And then he has kids now, and he's put on some weight. And he is struggling so much now. And he's coming to me for weight loss advice. And I'm like, dude, you've coached thousands of people. I just do it for fun. Like I'm this crazy. If you see my channel, I'm a crazy old dad. Like I rant. Half the stuff is just all like personal experience, anecdotal. I don't have degrees per se in anything. And then he's coming to me for advice because it really is harder and I think that's why it's great to find people maybe that have that background when you're struggling, because it's a different game. And now it's amazing that like just seeing that made me, I guess, more proud of myself too, and realize, actually it is tough when you're overweight and then having to.
It's a big, big achievement, I think, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, with the way the medical industry is going, our stories, natural stories, are going to be really something that's going to be highlighted a lot. Because at least to me, because now major weight losses, like 100 pounds, 50 kilos, 60 kilos, so common with something like Ozempic, so common. But yours, a natural story, me, a natural story. And I feel that hard work, the dedication, the determination that's needed to achieve that, it's unimaginable. It's unimaginable because it takes work. It takes work, What are your thoughts on the whole weight loss now with the weight loss injections?
Here's the thing, because just like my friend, you could have everything in place, ready to go. You can have that great body and then lose it if you don't know if you don't know the system. And it's a very individual system, by the way. Like what works for me will definitely not work for other people. Like I'm crazy. Like sometimes I'll eat stuff that I don't really enjoy because I just want to feel full. Other people, like they need to have like a really nice meal and sit down and like, so you can't copy and paste. So I'm not against things like surgery, Ozempic. It's okay. And even things like I'm doing now, like a lot of meal prep plans because I don't have time to cook, and those are good too. But what I am against is you have to figure things out. You have to learn along the way because it's a temporary tool to help you get somewhere or get somewhere a little bit faster. But the minute you remove it, you're 100% back to where you were. And that's the cycle people are stuck in. So how many people have mutilated their bodies, like chopping out, like 2/3 of their stomach and things like, and then literally a year later, they're
all the way
heavier than they were. And then they'll do it again. They'll then go for a bypass. So from a gastric sleeve to a bypass, which is even more extreme. And then another 2 years later, they're even more plus a couple more kg. So that's because they never fixed the issue. There's a problem. And there was an analogy I saw, I think his name is James P.T., he's the British guy, he comes to Dubai a lot, he's hilarious, but he gave a really good analogy about, and it was the problem with like people worrying too much about exercise and this and that, but it works well for this too. Like when you have a problem, when the problem is that there's water all over the floor from a leak in the roof, focusing on things like the type of diet or crash diet you use or the type of exercise, or that's like trying to find the best freaking mop to clean the water up. While the water is still gushing from the ceiling, it'll never get clean. So the diet and the lifestyle and that is patching the floor. And then you can have the crappiest, cheapest mop in the world. Eventually, the floor will dry. Right? So even if you're doing a subpar diet, subpar exercise, I can only walk 10 minutes a day. It's good enough. You'll get there. The floor will dry. But we're focused so much so there's money to be made in these things, Ozempic and so, but that's why people like you will always also have a job, because there's a phase 2, and phase 2 is way more important than that initial phase.
Absolutely. I mean, I work with people that are on Ozempic, and you see the ones that really want to put in the work. They really want to use this as a tool, and I'm okay with it. You know, if in this day and age, having everything, managing everything, it's okay if you want to use it, but use it as a tool. The minute you start making it your lifestyle, you still don't want to work out, you still want to eat like crap. Okay, you're losing weight because now you're eating less, but you're skinny fat, you're no muscle, you're still tired. Is that a life worth living? You're paying, what, $1,000 a month now to be skinny, but live this dreadful life. So it's, you know, and this is why anyone that I see that has really done it the natural way, I have a lot of respect for them, because I know I've been there. The struggle is real. But that being said, I mean, just to see how you switched off, I know the goal was so hard focused, right? The fact that they had told you you can no longer be a dad. But sometimes I find it's easier for men to separate emotion from their addiction, or separate emotion from a coping mechanism. So I'll give you an example. My partner, me and him have been dating now for close to 2 years. And, you know, when we started dating, he knew my lifestyle. He knows I work out. He knows I like to get my steps in. And we're talking about a person who used to have Coke for breakfast, like Coca-Cola, a whole liter. And in the past 2 years, he's lost 14 kilos. Mind you, I've not put him on any strict diets. I just live a healthier life. I don't keep crap in the house. We cook a lot of our meals. If we're getting meal prep delivered, it's healthier, high protein meals. But you won't see, like, he doesn't have that attachment to food that I have. You know, yeah, he was a bigger guy, but if I'll tell him, oh, I feel like dessert, he'll be like, no, I just don't want it. I was like, yeah, but you know, I've had like a stressful day. And he's like, no, it's for me, I need to talk myself out of it. I can do better. And I've noticed this with a lot of women, but for him, and I wonder if you can, you know, relate or talk about that a little bit, because for him, he's like, no, I just don't want it.
So there are different types of decision makers and approaches, and oftentimes men, and this is why you start seeing, like when they do a lot of research in the workplace, you know, a lot of CEOs, leaders tend to be mechanical decision makers, which means that on the spot, you immediately know what you want, and you'll be like, no thanks, yes or no. So you'll either say, yep, I'll buy it now. We don't overthink it. We don't. So for whatever reason, I think men tend to have that sort of mindset. So I think that carries over really well into food, because we're a little bit selfish. We're like, you know, yeah, whatever, no thanks, you know. And we don't have that emotional attachment where it's like, oh, let's share something together. Because I think that's a lot of times that's part of the experience too, isn't it? It's not just about eating the food. You want to share it with someone you love. You want to have that time together, you know, of distraction away from the world. But sometimes we're so carnal, I think, in the way that we look at things. It's like, me hungry, eat, me this, that. And that's why a lot of guys do stupid stuff. And we have to have the opposite, where we have to kind of cut back sometimes on those impulsive, instinctual. But I agree with you. I think there is definitely more of an uphill battle for women. And there are so many things. I mean, I've got like 1,000 sisters too. So, and then I'm an all-girls dad. So I've got 3 girls in the house and a wife. So I'm always outnumbered. And there's 100% certain factors there that, whether it's biological, whether, you know, like the hormonal stuff, social, the double standards in the world, like that just make it harder for women.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys, so the big issue when I was overweight, for example, a few people come up to me like, man, you're 150 kilograms? You don't look that big, actually. So like they would almost like, well, if a woman's like 2 kilograms overweight, man, all of a sudden, like everybody's on her. And so
Absolutely.
these are real life things, factors, I think, that have to be dealt with. But I agree. It's not that hard for me sometimes if I really don't want something. And then maybe because we are a little selfish, we're okay to be like, yeah, whatever, you do your thing, I'll do mine. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not worry about ruining the moment, or do you want this bite of cake? No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Killing the vibe.
yeah, he does it so well, and like he's like, oh, I'm fasting today. I'm not going to eat until 6. Like, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Just to your point about the weight. So I'm a tall girl, right? And there is that double
I think, are you
standard.
taller than me? I
I'm
was surprised.
180,
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
180.
I'm 183.
Oh yeah,
So
so it was
we're pretty close.
yeah, right about there. And so I'll tell people in my master classes, I'll tell them I weigh 79, 80 kilos. Like that's my average. I want to get to 75, but I'm no rush about it. If I get it by the end of the year, I'm okay. And the minute I say that number, mind you, everyone in this room is struggling with their weight. Everyone in this room is, maybe the same weight as me and want to get smaller, or maybe 20, 30 kilos different. But the minute I say it, they're like, oh, 80 kilos, she's 80, she's 80 kilos. Like it's a big number for a woman to be that big. And they're like, oh, but you don't look it. And do you still want to lose weight? That's the next question I get. And I tell myself, when I was 145 kilos, it was a problem. Now, if I'm 80 kilos, when I was 100 kilos, it was a problem. Now it's 80 kilos. Now you need to be even lower. And I'm so fed up. I'm so fed up with the double standard because I don't believe it's about the number on the scale. I truly believe that it's your routine, your lifestyle. Are you happy? Are you truly living a life? Because if I didn't have the habits that I used to have, I'd continue be looking 145, right? So I'm a victim of the double standard, that's for sure. Every single day I see it, but I believe I'm also normalize it. Someone needs to normalize it. Someone needs to say, she's 80, she's happy, she's lost 65. That's my starting point. I can get there. Because a lot of people, when they want to lose weight, and I wonder if you had that, because give me some insight as well. When I ask a woman, okay, tell me, what's your goal? Where do you want to get to? It'll never be, okay, well, let me lose 10 kilos first and kind of see. Oh, I want to be 65. I was 65 when I was 16. It did me wonders, and that's what I want to be. And so when you started losing weight, did you have a goal in mind? Did something kind of,
So me, like I was married already, and I was already, so it was a bit of a different situation. I think maybe if you're a bachelor, you'd probably be a little more on the aesthetic side in terms of goals. And I didn't have a job where I was required to be very physically kind of like fit or anything like that. I was in education. So for me, I just wanted to get healthier. And then I want to be able to do more of the stuff that I like to do. So get more back into basketball. But thinking about it now, so I think in terms of like body fat percentages a lot. So now it's it's more just like a certain look, not necessarily a number on a scale.
Yeah.
I have a feeling with women, the number on the scale matters more. Because for men, like we don't mind getting heavier if you're getting a bit like, I'm 260, man. What are you going to do? Like like the whole Bradley Martin thing. I think the number doesn't mind, but it's maybe more the composition. So for me, like a dream now, like I've never gotten into like abs territory before. It's really hard because it's not really worth it, the amount of pain you have to go through. Like your libido drops, your energy drops, your mood, like everything's way harder. But it's just something that I think like every guy kind of has like, all right, I just want to do it that one time in my life. So it's something even now, in this age, I'm thinking, okay, when the kids are a little bit older, maybe I'll just go for a run and like hit it one time, take that one picture and then move on. So for me, yeah, it's maybe not necessarily a number on a scale, but the body fat percent. So that, sub 15% or 12% body fat where you can start seeing sort of visible abs. That's something that now I think of. But wouldn't it be so great if you could like create a new like metric for like a new language where no longer anyone asks scale, but like it's like a culmination of a few data points. So like how you're feeling, how your clothes fit, how your joints, and then that number is the number that you're competing against.
Yeah.
The overall.
Yeah.
That would be so great, right?
Absolutely.
When you were talking, that I like thought came in my head.
Absolutely. I mean, it's pretty much what I do with my clients. When I speak to them on a daily basis or, a weekly basis, I very rarely ask them about their weight. If they're willing to share, fine, we'll go into it. But I want to know your steps. I want to know your sleep. I want to know your water. I want to know, how did you eat? Did you manage your calories? Did you track? Because That's your habits. That's your lifestyle. The weight loss is just going to be a byproduct of it. If you can show me you can do all of that, you can show me that you can lose weight and you can keep it off. You don't even need me after that, you know? And that's the part, as easy as it sounds, those 4 or 5 things, it's part that people struggle with the most. You know, they struggle with just those parts the most. And it's heartbreaking at times. It's heartbreaking because once you can just, get that side of things, it gets easier. And this is why I feel that, you've been successful. How long now you've kept the weight off?
It's been about 12 years. Yeah,
But it's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time to keep weight
40
off.
years old, guys.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so here's my question for you. What does that routine look like? What are the major changes you've had to make to keep it off for 12 years?
One thing I realized is that my approach is very dynamic. So I think I always imagined that I would kind of do a whole bunch of hardcore things and then have this nice maintenance level. And it's not like that because life is not static. Life is dynamic.
Yes, you can say that again.
So I'm lucky where now I know all the different tools and the pros and cons of each of them and how, for me personally, they make me feel. And I'm able to then implement them, wherever. So according to whatever game I'm playing, I implement the rules. So I'm not going to put basketball rules in a football game. I'm going to put basketball rules in a basketball game. So for example, if there's an event coming up or holidays, I'm definitely not going to have the same approach as if just regular life where I can be a little bit more conservative, a little bit more, on target. So, using things like the fasting for me. So fasting's easy for me. I don't get tired. I don't get hungry. I don't get annoyed. There's some people where they do get tired, they do get hungry, they do get annoyed, and that might not be a great option for them. So I'll implement that tool. So, if I know I'm going to have a crazy night out with the family and I don't want to be that guy that doesn't eat or doesn't, then, I'll do a little bit of fasting. I'll increase some of my activity. I enjoy that anyway. And then that's one way around it. When I have more time and energy, I'll do calorie counting. I love it. It's like a formula. It's oh, awesome. Let's see how many different meals I can make and make it fit. And then you get a lot more variety that way. So you can still eat pretty much anything you want. And then sometimes I'm like, man, I want to feel healthy. I'm farting all day long and I'm feeling bad. And I want to, so then I'll go for the Whole Foods and then I'm not even track. And you'll maintain weight so easily just eating one ingredient, chicken, potato, vegetable, fruit. You cannot go wrong and you feel really nice after a while. So it's not like I just only do one or the other. I literally, according to how I feel, like I said, if I'm starting to get some health issues, I'll eat healthier. If I'm really bored and I want a little bit of fun, I'll calorie count and then have a little bit more of the, if it fits your macro style, where I can have a bit more fun food. And it just really depends on your life. And my workouts, same thing. I adapt those. I'm not always going to do, every day, or upper, lower. Sometimes I might do 2 full body workouts for the week. And guess what? That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on 2 full body workouts for a week now. And I was like, why was I killing myself that much before? I'm getting more results now than I was back then.
Oh, I know men who've put on significant mass doing that just because they were consistent and they pushed themselves.
It's crazy. It's truly crazy. I mean, there were days, I was 4 days at the gym, 2 upper, 2 lower, couldn't even move half of the week. What's going on there? That's crazy.
It's because a part of it, and I think we forget, so what is the individual job of each part of weight loss? So the food is to fuel the body, and you need to either lower it if you're trying to shrink in size, increase it if you're trying to, gain size, put on muscle, or if you're maintaining, kind of keep at the exercise is the adaptation, creating the need to change and get bigger and get stronger and get faster. But it doesn't, the rest is what actually then makes it all come together and recovery. So most people, they'll either get only the workout, right? And they'll ignore the food and rest, or they'll get the food right and then they'll ignore the workout and then they'll become kind of skinny fat. Or they'll do both and then not even bother with their rest and recovery. So when you do 2 days a week, because you're recovering so well, you're able to, number one, put way more effort in those 2 days.
Yeah.
So the stimulus is a lot better. Your probably mindset is better going in because you're not you weren't just there yesterday, and then you've done all these other things. So that mental weight has been lifted from you because you're not worried about all these pending. You finished your work, you finished, and then your body is physically recovered and grown stronger. And growing doesn't mean getting bigger. I love that you lift weights too.
Yeah.
This is another big gripe of mine, like women not lifting.
Yeah.
Because there is that misconception too that you'll just come out and like, I'm really sorry. It's very, very hard to put on muscle. Trust me, naturally. So don't worry about it. Like it's very functional too. Get stronger, man. You don't know when you're going to need that strength. Yeah. And osteoporosis, all that, it's countered by putting on muscle. So
yeah.
You're great. I mean, a really good role model, I think. I love your stuff.
Thank you. And you know, it's but you're so right, because now when I go for my workouts on Monday and Friday, it's a whole different mindset. I go in with so much energy, so much strength, and the results are phenomenal. The scale's taking its time to move, but that's okay. I'm so focused now on building muscle. And the other part of it is, I think women are still in this day and age, it's getting better, but still scared of lifting weights, you know, especially heavy weights. I don't want to get too bulky, or I don't want to, but they don't understand that the women that show up and that are very bulky are on some sort of testosterone or something for them to start looking that way. And, you know,
Definitely.
it's impossible. It's impossible that you could gain those kind of back muscles and arm muscles as a woman. It's absolutely impossible. So yeah, it's if anyone's listening, guys, like lift some weights. You know, it's not good.
And I'm sorry, but they have to lift heavy weights in their daily lives all the time anyway. Have you seen like the mom arms, like when they carry the baby? Like I struggle doing that.
Yeah.
And they're strong, but for whatever reason, if you just change the baby thing to a dumbbell, all of a sudden, no.
Yeah.
So they don't realize like that they're doing it. It's
already.
Just doing it in a more effective system where they're actually able to improve and get stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's so important, so important. And this is one, and for me, I feel I always put things to a mental and emotional level just so that I can understand things. And I feel that from women in particular, that if you lift weights, the heavier it is, it just shows that you're capable of handling difficult things. Like you can push through difficult things, you can do difficult things, you know? Life doesn't always, I'm all about being feminine, but life doesn't allow you to be that feminine at times. It'll throw shit your way. And so when you lift weights, you're like, you know what? No matter what gets thrown to me today, I got this. I can push back. I got this. And I love that feeling that lifting weights, even boxing.
It's tangible.
Yeah.
Like you see the weight go up.
Yeah.
No one can come up to you and say, you haven't kicked ass.
Yeah.
Like, because you could only do that before, and now you're doing that.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, definitely love that aspect of it. What would you say are some skills that you have now that keeps you from gaining back the weight that you lost?
I think so being able to number one, so the calorie counting in the beginning, I found it very eye-opening. You don't have to do it forever, but even if you're not on a diet, just see how much you're actually eating. Like it's really eye-opening. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
I became like a nutritionist almost. I know everything I can kind of eyeball food, and it's very helpful, number one. Number two, creating red lines where it prevents me from going past a certain point where I know I will really struggle coming back.
Yeah.
Whether it's a number on a scale, not always my favorite thing, especially when you're lifting weights where it's not accurate. Circumferences are great though. Like
measurements,
things like that. Yeah. Could be like an outfit where like, okay, this, as long as I can still fit in these pants and I know I'm doing all right. It's a little harder for men though, like especially like coming from the hood, you know, we like our baggy clothes. And so, but you know, there's you just create a boundary and then respect the hell out of it. And that's helped me so much. So I've never really gotten past a certain point, no matter how tough life has gotten. And so that now I'm a little more comfortable. So I know how to switch it on, and I know that I can turn it back on. So it makes me less likely to completely fall off, because that's the hard part where, you know, how, like the analogy they say, like, you know, you have a flat tire, don't slash the other three. Like, don't go into F it mode, you know, like chill out, fix that one tire, and then keep going. So those, I'd say, the two biggest ones: learning how to count calories, and then setting those, like, whatever boundaries are. Everyone will have it different. So for me personally, it is sometimes the number. It's just the easiest thing to track. So if I get above 92 kilograms, I'm like, I'm probably a good time to go on a little cut here.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, because I do the exact same. Mine's 84. Like the minute I see 84, I was like, Natasha, you've enjoyed. Like, it's not even, oh God, damage control, you've got to diet again. No. Like, you've enjoyed, like, you know, let's reel it back. So I think, you know, there's so much that's thrown our way from social media. You don't look at the number on the scale, and body positivity, and you shouldn't track, and you should love food. And while all of that is great, we're confusing the people that are actually struggling with weight. You know, you want them to not worry about weight. You want them to, you know, eat as they like, be intuitive eaters, but they're struggling with their weight, and you're trying, like, they're so confusing to individuals. And I just tell them, listen, stop. Your primary goal is to stop overeating. and lose the weight. It's your primary goal. Then after that, once you're able to look at your accountabilities, look at your boundaries, your red lines, then you can tell yourself, you know what, maybe I want to be vegan now. Maybe I want to be an intuitive eater now. Maybe I want to go into body positivity. But you can't get there while you're still struggling.
I'm a big proponent of, so for me, like losing the weight should be the number one priority. How you do it is secondary. I can't stand this life optimal. Like you said, like it'd be great to have that nice intuition and to be positive about your body. But right now you're sick. I was very sick when I was 150 kilograms. I hated myself. I was in pain physically every day. I was making excuses. I wasn't progressing in life. There were things I really wanted that I wasn't able to get because of the weight. So lose the weight first. Even in a suboptimal way. I told you at the beginning, it wasn't great. It was like extreme low carb. I wasn't social. I wasn't going out. That's not the way you want to live your life. It wasn't sustainable. But guess what? So many of my problems disappeared just from that first 30 kilograms.
Absolutely.
Blood pressure issues, joint pain, this, that. And then I was able to then say, okay, now I look a little better. Now let's feel better. And now let's do it in a more sustainable way and a smart way. But just lose the weight, even your confidence. Like, like I'm sorry, but you smash your job interviews when you're feeling better. Buying clothes, like it's so much easier. It's cheaper, you no longer have to get like specialty store crap and this and that. Like you save money when you're healthy. So you do spend a little bit in some areas and then you save tons of money in other areas. So there's all these side effects. So I always say, so if you see my channel a lot of times, you'd think that, man, this guy, like I'm always eating, like I eat a lot of processed foods and this and that. But I always try and bring back, look, the number one focus, this message, I'm not trying to say the obvious stuff. We all know that a salad is healthier than fast food, but we're eating the fast food. So if you can stop eating at least the fast food and have something a little better, lose weight, and then, like I said, naturally you'll say, okay, now I want to kick it to the next level. Now let's start eating like really healthy stuff.
Absolutely. I agree. I call it a bridge. You can't go from 10 Cokes a day to lemon water every day because it's so good for your body and your soul. I mean, come on, we know it's good for my body and soul, but you're going to tell a 140 kilo person that she cannot have 10 Cokes a day and she needs to start having water and lemon. How long is she going to do it for? 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 at max, right? And so we have to have that bridge point. And then she says, okay, I'll have Diet Coke. Then you'll have everyone in the industry telling her, no, don't have Diet Coke. It's so bad for you. It's so bad for you. But she's trying. That's her bridge, And I think we really need to encourage that behavior. I know there's a process element. I've watched some of your videos. I've even tried some of your recipes, to be honest. Now I was like, wow, I was like, that's good. That's
glad
easy.
You still made it to the other side.
I was like, that's good. That's easy, But this is where the confusion comes in with all the vegan and the vegan diets, the Mediterranean diets, and you wholesome foods. I get all of that. I get it. And you can choose that life, but that comes after. If you're struggling with weight, that should not be your top priority. And I'm with you 100% on that. On that note, when it comes to your girls, you have 3 girls. Given the fact that you've struggled with weight, what is something that you want to pass on to them, you want to teach them as far as body positivity goes, as far as weight goes? How are you going to be handling all of that with them?
It's a struggle. So one of my daughters, she's older. So that's the one where I have to really be careful. She's, I think, nearly 9 years old now. So she's getting to that age where pre-adolescence, where things like bullying are going to start taking place. We have been very, very busy parents because we have 2 very much younger kids, the 2-year-old and the 2-month-old. So she's not getting a lot of the attention anymore. She's not. So there's a knock-on effect that it's very hard to balance because it is. I've seen it, especially in girls. I have, female relatives who've struggled with eating disorders really badly. And I don't want to accidentally trigger that in my own daughter too. Yeah. Because unfortunately her parents are opposites, where her mother is just very naturally, fit and she can easily moderate her food. She's the kind of person to take 1 bite of the chocolate and put it away. And then she has a dad who's like this like animal and just blah, 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 So it is really hard, and I'm still learning that. That's something where like I'm even, because I think it's I don't want to repeat the cycle and then unfortunately give those bad habits. Because she hears me talking about calories and sees it all the time, but I don't want necessarily her to worry about that. So it's just trying to build just like you do with your clients, build other good habits that will force you to be healthy. Yeah. So then you don't even need to worry about weight. So if you're running every day and walking, doing this, reading, meditating, praying, then you're way less likely to have those issues. But I'm still struggling. And my whole life right now is revolved around fitness. So imagine like the regular Joe with their kids, and because you're finding so much stuff. You're finding, okay, multi-billion-dollar industries, their whole goal is to get you addicted to food.
Yeah.
And they hire like genius scientists to put
Absolutely.
chemicals in there to make you addicted. Like,
Absolutely.
it's an unfair fight, man.
Yeah.
Regular people versus scientists, they will win. They are winning. And then because both parents work nowadays, and in the old days, maybe you had only a single parent working, and so you had like that home presence and the family meals, and let's all eat dinner together. And life isn't like that anymore. Everything on the go. So it's really hard. And I think that we all need to maybe even look into that, because I'm struggling too. The younger ones, we'll see. I mean, and then there's genetics too. So the older daughter, like, I think she's more like me, where she can put on weight quicker. The little one is like a ninja or something. Like, she just doesn't even eat, and she just goes around like beating people up and like running around. They're very different. And then having to balance it where I'm just trying to shove as much butter into the little one as possible, and then try and find a way to support my older daughter. So
Yeah.
I haven't figured that one out, if I had to be honest, because it is hard. Because if you push too much, you could actually create a bigger problem. And I just want, at the end of the day, I want her happy. That's my first goal. Let her be happy, healthy. I want her to be a kind person. She doesn't have to be the best looking. She doesn't have to be the smartest in the room. She doesn't have to be wealthy. I don't care. As long as she's honest, caring, and happy. And then hopefully some of the other stuff will click into place too.
Yeah. I mean, that's really beautiful. You don't have to have all the answers. Awareness is key. And just you speaking about it, saying, look, I don't know. I'll figure it out along the way. It might work out in the best way possible. And of course, there'll be learning lessons that we can kind of work through. I think that's really, really beautiful in itself, because I've seen the other end of it. I've seen parents put unnecessary pressure on their children. And I'm dealing with some of that right now. Some of my clients are the results of these pressures from parents. And unfortunately so, but you have to kind of unwire it. And it's nice to see, because I always tell myself, when I have kids, how is it going to be? How am I going to be around them? What kind of food is it going to be? Not that I'm obsessive, but I have a way of life. I have a way of life. You have a way of life. We have borderlines that we kind of live around, because we know what it feels like to be 145, 150 kilos. We never want to do that again. So it's interesting. It's really interesting to hear and see, one, how far you've come, two, what you're passing on through your community. I read your comments. I think the other day, forget what you were showcasing, but I was reading the comments and everyone was like, yes, please show us some more. Like, tell us where we could get this. And I think that's, you passing on that knowledge. So helpful, so beneficial, because you're showing people out there that it can be done. And you can see from the response that people need it. They need the guidance. They need the assistance. If you were to leave, let's say 2 or 3 messages for men in particular, young men in 20, 30, 40s, 50s, struggling with their weight in this day and age, maybe, in the country that we live in, where body image is so profound, having six-pack abs is something that people sought for. What would your messaging be to them?
It's helpful to think of it in terms of what legacy are you leaving and what are your priorities. If you can get those correctly. So for example, in 100 years, are people going to talk about your six-pack? Are they going to talk about bigger impact that you've done? Your manners, your personality, were you a good leader? Were you a good person, a good father, being healthy supports all of those goals. Mm-hmm. And so just make sure that, number one, you have to put in the work. It's not easy. It's worth it, because you are leading by example. Yeah. But at the same time, make sure that you're not sacrificing other things in the process. So don't become purely selfish and purely sort of superficial, because there's a lot more to being a man than just a certain look or and take help, for God's sake, But it's hard to open up. And there's a lot of confusion, like you're supposed to be tough, you're supposed to be, and then there's that saying, don't mistake kindness for weakness. And you can be a nice person, but still be a protector and still be. So I'm not going to let someone punch me in the face. But if I have to knock him over defending myself, I'm going to pick him back up, and then maybe we'll become friends. That there's a difference between being a pushover. So don't get confused, I think, by society. But at the end of the day, like the priorities that I mentioned, like they're so important, because we're going to die one day. Yeah. I will be in the ground. Yeah. And nobody is going to care what I look like. Did I ever say something hurtful to them? Was I around enough for them? Those are the things that you leave. But being healthy gives you more time, gives you more quality to do those things. So it's really important. And I do think everything else gets better when you are healthy. Religion, family, all of it, job, everything.
I agree. Your health is your wealth. Take that away, and all you're going to try to do is try to get better. And then only then you can try fixing everything. But thank you. Thank you so much, one, for joining us today, sharing your story, leaving us on such a positive note for men. It's really, really important for me. I'm working with a lot more men now, and I'm starting to understand them in a completely different limelight, completely different way. It's beautiful. And now hearing your story as well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And on that note, remember that one of the key ingredients to my initial weight loss was my wife's support. So it's actually interesting. That match might actually be quite helpful. I think men, there's a lot to gain, I think, from getting insight from women too.
Yeah.
Don't close that door, that resource.
I think every woman needs a papa in their life. I think that's something you start talking about on your TikTok. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And guys, thank you again. The episode should be out very, very soon. I think we're gonna cut this part out anyways. But thank you for joining us.
I don't even know where to look. I'm looking there.
No, that's perfect.
Well,
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Take the Weight Out of Weight Loss podcast. We hope you find the information and strategies discussed helpful on your journey with emotional eating and weight loss. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes. And see you next week for a brand new episode.